Game screenshots used to be nothing more than quick captures of a cool moment or a studio's promo material. Now they've morphed into a whole side hobby where people jump into a game purely to hunt for that one perfect shot worth keeping. Assetto Corsa makes that surprisingly easy, offering enough tools to turn the track into a creative playground instead of just a place to chase lap times. So how are you doing, awesome fellas? I'm Faye, and I'm still the last guy you'd ever ask about real photography or how to take a proper screenshot. But inside Assetto Corsa, I've stumbled into a few things that help me squeeze out those not too bad shots you've seen earlier. It all begins with a handful of basics. The CSP's nice screenshot settings, picking the right PPF, and nudging a few other small settings until the game stops looking like a fever dream. Now let's get back in the lab and do some cooking. We'll be using the game's replay system for our screenshots, mainly because it unlocks the shutter speed option in the photo mode app. Before loading any replay from your earlier sessions, head into the settings, open the Assetto Corsa tab, and in the system section, switch your screenshot format to PNG. It gives you clearer, sharper images than JPEG ever will. Next, make sure your nice screenshot settings are sorted. You can tweak them yourself, or load my nice screenshot CSP preset if you want the exact look from my earlier shots. The link's in the description. Just remember to back up your old preset before swapping anything. Now let's load a replay. As I mentioned earlier, your CSP nice screenshot settings and whatever PPF you're running will shape the final look of your still shots. For this session, I'm using my custom PPF, DV Ascend. It's still in beta, and like everything else I've made over the years, it's free on my Patreon. To help me find angles that don't look like accidental CCTV footage, I use the drone app. It lets the camera float around freely, and that freedom often leads to those dramatic angles you don't plan for, but end up loving. Playing with how close or far the car is from the camera, then balancing that distance with the zoom, gives you a lot of variation in your shots without overthinking it. Pause the replay when you hit a moment that feels worth capturing. Once you've locked in your angle, start playing with depth of field by adjusting the focus. Most people tend to click directly on the car with control-click to let the background blur out, and that does give you a clean, polished look. But sometimes I like clicking slightly off the car instead. Just a tiny shift in focus can add a more dramatic feel to the shot. In this example, letting the car sit a bit out of perfect focus actually makes the whole image feel more natural and alive. It works especially well for capturing those intense mid-race moments where everything looks like it's moving with purpose. Depending on the track, playing around with the weather and time of day can really lift the whole scene. Some circuits look washed out when the sun is sitting right above us, while others handle it just fine. Lowering the sun angle a bit usually helps anywhere. You get more defined shadows and a softer overall look. If you don't want to gamble with uneven lighting, switching to the Overcast Clouds preset is the safest shortcut. The clouds block the sun, the light spreads evenly, and you get clean, balanced visuals right away. Another easy trick is using parts of the track where the car naturally passes through shadow. That lets you keep the bright sky and clouds while avoiding harsh sunlight blasting the car. For those who like stronger shadows and a scene that still feels naturally lit, the PPF config gives you plenty of sliders to fine-tune ambient light and everything around it. And for screenshots, you don't need to save any of these tweaks. Just adjust them, grab the shot, and move on. So in conclusion, your PPF choice and the CSP nice screenshot settings are basically the backbone of a lifelike shot in this game. Those two set the stage, and when you mix them with weather tweaks and a bit of PPF seasoning, suddenly your screenshot looks like it has a backstory instead of looking like a postcard your uncle brought home from a budget vacation. Now that the basics are in place, let's walk into the slightly nerdier territory of how I actually take these shots, starting with shutter speed. This little slider is the magician behind motion. You can use it to lock the car in focus while the world around it streaks into a blur, giving you that speeding ticket incoming vibe. Or flip the idea around and blur the cars while keeping the background sharp, turning the shot into something that feels like the world's moving without asking your permission. But here's the real fun. Shutter speed is also my go-to trick when a track just refuses to look good. Maybe the textures are dated, maybe the models are rough, maybe the background is emptier than my fuel tank after 2 laps. Whatever the reason, some locations simply fight back. Take this rally track, for example. Shots that would normally look great anywhere else suddenly lose their spark here. By playing with shutter speed, you can blur out those weak textures entirely. Then, by adjusting the sun angle, you bring life back into the scene with dust, dirt, and other gritty details catching the light. It's visual CPR, but for bad screenshots. Color grading in photo mode is another spot that deserves a little attention. Most PPFs already come with their own look baked in, but photo mode lets you mix in an extra layer of grading on top of that. Switch it on, move the intensity slider until it feels right, and watch the whole scene shift. It's wild how many different moods you can squeeze out of a single shot just by tinkering with that one setting. Night shots don't get nearly enough love, yet they come with their own perks. A dark sky sprinkled with stars or a big glowing moon can push your screenshots into a completely different vibe. Here's a quick trick for night photography. In Pure Config, the Reflections Emissive Boost lets you control how much nearby light sources bounce off the car. Raise it, and those emissive reflections pop, lower it, and the car blends more gently into the scene. You can also tweak the emissives themselves to shift the overall mood. Small changes here can pull your shot towards something more atmospheric, mysterious, or even cinematic, depending on what you're aiming for. The Photo Mode app already gives you everything you need to cook up gorgeous shots. The color adjustment sliders work just like the ones in your PPF: saturation, brightness, contrast, all the usual suspects, so you can fine-tune the look without touching anything else. Then you've got the Scene tab, where you can swing the sun around the horizon or nudge the time offset to reshape the entire atmosphere. There's also a little toolbox for the car itself. You can force the exhaust to spit flames non-stop, flip the headlights on, or if you feel like recreating a heroic motorsport tragedy, crank the damage until the poor thing looks like it survived 24 hours at Le Mans powered only by duct tape, stubbornness, and the driver's questionable life choices. Let's roll through a few hints before we wrap this up. Little things that'll save you from turning a fun screenshot session into a full-blown existential crisis. First, try not to over-tweak everything. I know how tempting it is to keep sliding things around until the game starts looking like a Renaissance painting dipped in HDR syrup, but most of the time the best move is to keep it simple. If the shot already feels right, just take it. Don't spend 10 minutes wrestling with a brightness slider that only needs 2 seconds of your attention. Second, taking inspiration from other people's screenshots is totally fine. We all do it. Just don't glue yourself to the idea of recreating someone else's exact style. Use references as a guide, not a cage. Half the fun is stumbling into a look that feels like yours, not accidentally rebuilding someone else's art piece pixel for pixel. Third, don't get stuck taking the same kind of shot every time. Yes, the classic car-on-track banger is always nice, but Assetto Corsa has a lot more to show if you poke around. Try shooting interior details, rims, turn signals, or even bits of scenery around the circuit. Sometimes the smallest part of the car ends up looking cooler than the whole car itself. And here's one last thought before we move on. Don't chase perfection. Being spontaneous goes a long way. This isn't a magazine cover photo shoot with a 10-person lighting crew. It's you, fooling around, capturing a moment that looks good to you. If the shot makes you smile, that's already a win. Take the photo, move on, and save the perfectionism for things that actually need it, like making sure your tire pressures aren't set to balloon mode. All right, awesome fellas, that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed the ride. Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe if you haven't. It really helps the channel more than you think. And you can follow me on Patreon to grab all my stuff for free, with a massive thanks to everyone who's been supporting me there. Keep your car cool, your lighting dialed, your screenshots sharp, and as always, stay awesome.